Last weekend at Eldora Speedway, we were witnesses to two contrasting stories featuring a pair of individuals who have had their share of ups and downs. Justin Grant and Robert Ballou certainly have had their fair share of good fortune throughout their careers. A large part of the two's success is due to their sheer will and ability to bounce back when standing face-to-face with adversity. Redemption is a word that comes to mind, and these two have certainly answered the bell, whether it was in the change of an employer, as was the case for Grant, or overcoming serious injuries and a long rehabilitation to race again like Ballou. After a tumultuous 2016 season, both Grant and Ballou were seeking newfound glory. Grant appears to have already found it with two USAC AMSOIL National Sprint car wins and the series point lead to his name coming into Eldora. On Thursday, Ballou was medically cleared. On Friday, he was back in a race car at one of the most harrowing venues of them all. This weekend was the stage to multiple comebacks. Comebacks that won't soon be forgotten, especially ones that come at the Big E. Welcome to USAC Weekly Rewind, presented by AMSOIL, the first in synthetics. 1 year ago, Justin Grant came into Eldora's Let's Race 2 with a full-time ride. When he left the track that weekend, that was no longer the case. By September, he was back in victory lane at Eldora's Four Crown Nationals with Sam McGee Motorsports. Throughout the remainder of 2016 and into the first several races of 2017, Grant and McGee haven't finished outside the top 8. That ride continued Friday night when Grant began the 30-lap event from 5th position as pole sitter Kevin Thomas Jr. sprinted away to the lead at the drop of the green with Chris Windham, Chad Baseflug, and Jared Andretti in tow. Windham began to apply pressure to Thomas for the top spot by lap 7, but soon, both Grant and 11th starting Shane Cottle gassed their way to the front. Grant took second away after sweeping around the outside of Windham and now had his eyes set on running down KTJ. As Cottle made his move on Windham for third, Grant rocketed the inside of Thomas on the back straightaway and used a patented Eldora slider to rip away the lead as Thomas countered underneath. In a drag race to the line, Grant held the advantage by a single wheel. Thomas charged right back, but Grant denied the anticipated Thomas slide job after switching to the low line to momentarily ward off the challenge. Meanwhile, Cottle was the man on a mission, using the middle to low line to gain considerable ground on Grant just after the midway point. The two went wheel to wheel through turns 3 and 4, with Grant able to hold on to a slight margin. Cottle made his bid on Grant for the lead at the bottom of turn 1. Grant slammed the door to fend off Cottle, but Cottle refused to fade away and came back at Grant with just 10 laps remaining, briefly nosing ahead as a swarm of drivers made a beeline at the leaders, including Thomas, Windham, Thomas Meserol, and Dallas Hewitt. Grant, Cottle, and Thomas ran nose to tail, 1, 2, 3, in a battle in which no inch was spared, lap after lap. The contentious tug-of-war for position with the top 5 participating in a scramble as if it were a restrictor plate race at Talladega. Grant moved back to the top in the final stages, as Dallas Hewitt found a little magic of his own, cruising around the outside of Meserol for 4th before slicing through the middle past Cottle for 3rd. With 4 laps remaining, Hewitt hauled the mail to 2nd after sliding across the front bumper of Thomas. It was now a 2-man trophy dash between Grant and Hewitt for the win. On laps 28 and 29, Hewitt made up ground off turn 4 to pull himself within the shadows of Grant. Yet Grant played a little more defense as the sound of Hewitt's engine was now within Grant's earshot. On the final lap, Hewitt made one final go of it as he kept Grant within reach, but his torrid late race charge to become the first member of the Hewitt family since Uncle Jack swept the 4 Crown in 1998 would come up just short as Grant dodged each and every bullet fired at him to capture his 3rd career Eldora triumph and his 3rd series victory of the season over Dallas Hewitt and Kevin Thomas Jr. Eldora was a fitting stage for Ballou's return, but it was just happenstance that the first leg of his road back to a racetrack took place at a venue that has served him so well over the past decade. It's the same place where he earned the first 3 of his 27 career series victories, as well as the first Let's Race 2 feature in 2015. From his starting position outside of the 2nd row, Ballou immediately became a factor. By the end of lap 1, Ballou dove to the bottom of turn 1 to take first away from Chris Windham. However, Windham came right back at Ballou, returning the favor by mimicking the same move that had just been put on him on the opposite end to snatch the lead back in turn 3. Ripping the top lap after lap, with their right rear tires breezing the concrete, Windham and Ballou entered lap traffic, with much of the back end of the field cooperating by running the bottom, providing them an unobstructed lane up top. With 13 laps remaining, the leaders encountered 15th running Josh Hodges running the high groove. Windham left the trusty high line to slide Hodges through turns 3 and 4. As he slid through the middle of the racing surface, Ballou stayed the course up top and jetted around the outside of Windham, exiting turn 4 to take the position. A lap 26 Landon Simon tumble put a halt to Ballou's surefire run to the checker, but only briefly. When racing resumed, Ballou picked up right where he left off, checking out in the final 5-lap sprint for his first win in nearly a year over Chris Windom and Brady Bacon. Thursday, he was medically cleared. Friday, he was back in a race car. Saturday, he was back in victory lane for the 5th time at Eldora, a remarkable feat for the 2015 Series champ from California, who had been out of action for the previous 8 months. Grant remains at the top of the standings, increasing his lead to 66 over Chad Baseflug, Chris Windom, Chase Stockin, and Tyler Courtney. Now we head to the beach of California's Ventura Raceway, where USAC CRA sprint car regular Jake Swanson duked it out with Danny Sheridan for the first 3/4 of the first lap before Swanson bolted away. On lap 5, 4-time defending series champion Ronnie Garner slipped by for second as Sheridan slipped high, and the chase was on to run down Swanson. On a restart with 6 laps remaining, Swanson broncoed the turn 2 cushion. By the time he landed, he was staring at the tail tank of his 6'8 Motorsports teammate Ronnie Gardner as he dropped to second. Though Swanson remained in touch, that was all she wrote as Gardner finished off his 21st career series win in grand fashion over Jake Swanson and Corey Elliott. This has been USAC Weekly Rewind, presented by AMSOIL, the first in synthetics. I'm Michael McIntyre, and on behalf of the United States Auto Club and LoudPedal.tv, Racer Max says thanks for watching, and remember to keep the hammer down and the wheels up.